As much as I'd like to turn myself into a robot with no emotions who can just work on the game development 24/7 and make games and make videos and all of that and not really have to worry about having fun in life, that's not really how humans and game development works, unfortunately. You still need to take a break from time to time, and you don't want to like completely give up game development. I know some of you guys have like kids and like wives and whatever that can take up a bunch of time. I have game development and I have game development, and that's pretty much it. I don't have any spawn myself that I need to take care of and that like takes up time. So I have 5 other things that I like to do instead to like take a break from game development, but still kind of be working on game development at the same time. And it is very bright right now. I hope the video is okay. But the first thing that I like to do to take a break basically is what I'm doing right now. Like, I'm kind of still working because I'm recording this video, but generally I think for me personally the best thing I can do whenever I'm like, okay, I can't sit behind my computer and work anymore right now, I'm just gonna blow my brains out, is going on walks like what I'm doing right now. And it's a win-win. I get time to just think and like reflect a bit on life and everything I've been doing up to now. And also, you know, I still try to be a bit healthy. There's no gym here in Japan, so instead it's just going on walks a lot, like getting 10K steps every day. Doing like those longer walks, that's like an easy 10,000, 20,000 steps that I can often get. And it means that I'm not just sitting inside of my room, like hunched over my computer all day. Now, here are some of my tips as well for walking. Ideally go to nature because it's much more quiet here. Walking in cities gives me a bit more, like, not really stress, but I can't really zone out as much. Here, there is nobody. Since I like came from the train station up to here, I saw not a single soul. It's like 20 minutes into the forest right now. I don't think I'm gonna see anyone else. There's just birds and airplanes here. And it's really good for me to just think. One thing I suggest to you to do here, it's gonna be hard, is don't do like any earbuds or whatever, listening to podcasts, listening to music. It's going to be very tempting, but what's important with these walks, in my opinion, is that you let your brain be bored. Because having that bored brain, the first 10, 15 minutes, you're gonna be like, what am I doing? This is dumb. I wanna go back to work. But your brain is gonna be so understimulated suddenly that it will just start thinking for you. And before you know it, you're in this kind of like flow state, thinking about your game, thinking about mechanics, thinking about whatever, or not thinking about it at all. Depends on what you want, I guess. And it helps a lot, for me at least, to relax a bit and also just ponder over like maybe some game design things, or ponder over the bigger questions of my game, the planning, the rest of our team, things like that. Then a second thing you can do that I am generally a pretty big fan of as well is play more of your competition. So probably you've played similar games to whatever you want to make when you're first doing that research stage of what kind of game I'm going to make. You look at the competition, like for in our case it was Factory Town, Factorio, Satisfactory, whatever, all of those games for Forge Industry. But actually more and more games will keep getting released every like few months probably, that have similar kinds of like gameplay mechanics, things like that. So for example, Oddsparks is a big one that kind of looks similar to Forge Industry. It's a bit different, but those were games that weren't really out yet or fully announced or fully released yet when we started working on Forge Industry. So it can always be good to see what is the most up-to-date kind of games that are being made, what are the reviews on that, how are the games selling, and pivot based upon that basically. Because looking at games like, for example, Timberborn and Hydroneer, which we did for Forge Industry, they're good, but they're older as well. And you want as much up-to-date information basically about what kind of games are being made and what is the bar of quality we need to reach, because games always get better every year as well. So you need to make sure that you can actually keep up with game development and make sure that your game is adding new things to the table. Also, you know, I have my opinions about, you know, don't play all the games. Definitely, you can still play games. I think a more nuanced approach for game development is always make sure you never consume more than you produce. If you work on game development for like 8 hours a day and you want to play games for 2 hours a day, I will not kill you. Just make sure it's not the opposite, where if you play games for 8 hours every day and then only 2 hours you actually work on your own game. That's the only thing I want you to keep in mind when you play games. I will not kill you. Those were older statements. I don't fully agree with them anymore. If you want to play games, play games. Also, something else that I always recommend you guys to do if you can is join game development related meetups near where you live. I know for some people it's harder than for others. In Belgium it's pretty easy because we have a big game development scene. If you're not living in like the middle of nowhere in like Tennessee, you should be fine as well. But those game dev meetups can be a great way to take a step back from being behind the computer and network. Networking is something that I've learned is extremely important in helping your game development journey in general. And also just, you know, take a step back and you can do some backseat game development for other people if you want. Give them opinions on your own game, playtest their games, give feedback, learn about what are things that they're struggling with, and maybe you can pick up some things like that. There are a lot of things that I've personally learned as well by going to game development related meetups. Even if I don't show my own game, just talking to people and figuring out what are they struggling with, what am I struggling with, or just wallow in shared misery about the current game development landscape. Even that is good in my opinion. It is still pretty productive work, and also it's just getting a drink or getting some food with other people at the end of the day. It is always a fun experience as well. Then another one that I don't have that much background B-roll footage for is something called paper prototyping. So this is where you take either something for your own game that you're like working on, like in Unity or whatever other engine, or it's a brand new game that's like more of a board game, and you make it using just pen and paper. It's something that I've tried a few times. Like for example, also trying to make our own board games, I talked about it in other videos as well, is a great way to very quickly prototype, because there's no boilerplate when you just have pen and paper. You can make the rules immediately. You don't have to think about like complex code or whatever. You just say this card does this from now on, and then you can immediately change it again. Paper prototyping can also be really nice if you're not sure about what UI, because you can actually like physically use your finger to like push, like this is what I would do, this is the screen I would go to. I think it's a really cool way if you do have a mechanic, like for example also in Guild Manager, where we now have that 3D world space view of I want to make quests and I have like these different paper cards in the world space of like pieces of information. How am I going to take those and make it a fun mechanic, so to say? What are the different special things I can do? It is something that we've tried as well. If you just want to very quickly prototype, is this fun? Because that's the whole point, you want it to be fun. That's why I call it a break activity as well. And it's much faster than having to actually program all the lines of code and the 3D world space and all of that, or whatever other mechanic you're working on. Very easy, give it a go. Just take some pen and paper and try and recreate a mechanic from your game, or just a whole new game if you want, honestly, using pen and paper. And then this last one is something I've talked about before in similar videos, and it's called inspired leisure, where you just look and consummate media that is in the similar setting of your game. Maybe you're making a game where you're like on like a desert world where you drive cars and that's it. Maybe looking at the latest Mad Max Furiosa movie could be something interesting. Or maybe you're making a hard sci-fi game. Well, probably you want to look at something like The Expanse, for example, to see it, how are they working, or read books in the same styles of universes. Those things are really good points of inspiration to just detach. Because if you're making a game as well in like a sci-fi setting or a Mad Max setting, chances are you just like that setting in general, so it is entertaining for you to consume that kind of content, and it's also just going to give your game more of a direction in the long run, maybe of like you're missing an extra plot point, you're missing that like one extra thing that really ties the universe together. You never know where it's gonna come from. And those wrap up like my 5 things that I thought about on my long walk. I hope this video was helpful. Honestly, I just needed to get a video out, and this was something that, you know, I can combine these things. I know I've kind of talked about something similar in I think a video from last year, but it's like 500 views or whatever, so probably you have never seen it before. I'll link it up here somewhere as well, but I think the main key takeaway is just don't be like me, do actually take breaks, because I am too much of a Sigma grinded sometimes, and I definitely sometimes have trouble waking up and wanting to work still, because I do get like very close to that burnout line from time to time, and it's generally not the best approach to do. So take these breaks, take that inspired leisure, take whatever works for you. If you have anything that I missed that helps for you, maybe it's playing with your kids or whatever, go down below and leave it in the description as well. I'm always interested to hear what you guys are doing. And apart from that, if you're new here, we make videos about game development. That's a loud ass bird. We make videos about game development, 2 videos every week. So if you aren't subscribed yet, do me a favor, head down below and subscribe. It really helps me out in knowing that what I'm doing is helping you guys. That's all I have to say. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!